right? Looking it up, quick search, there is somewhere around 11.5 million undocumented immigrants. Meaning
The Proof is in the Whiskey podcast. The Proof.
Hey, this is Chris.
This is Eric.
This is the Proof is in the Whiskey podcast. We are sitting here just one audio listener away from being able to be sponsored, have some ads. So if you like what we're talking about, and once again, we're not doing this just for the money, but money helps. Money helps a lot of things. Capitalism is a thing that is not evil, you crazy leftist bastards. So what I want you to do is share this to 3 friends, and we can continue doing what we're doing. And videos are coming soon. Videos are coming soon. If you're watching this right now, videos, you're watching it. The videos are there.
If you're listening,
videos are coming soon. Okay, so just bear with us. Editing processes are quite difficult through all the way through, but I want you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. The account is the DC Dad, the official YouTube channel for the Proof is in the Whiskey podcast. You can also search The Proof is in the Whiskey and it will pop up. Just The Proof is in the Whiskey in YouTube. There's a couple of songs, and if you've heard the songs, they're not that good. Not hating on anybody's art, but not a fan personally of listening.
Yeah, you need to change that title.
Yeah, like, dude, come on.
You're ruining our podcast.
I was like, come on.
So,
All right.
going back to what I was saying. So,
Absolutely.
the overexpenditure of things like all these stimulus checks over and over and over and over and over. The $600, was it $600 a week that people were getting on unemployment during COVID?
Plus the original $300 that they were receiving.
Rather than
additional $600.
Right, rather than going back to work. PPP loans, as long as they weren't abused, I was fine with, because that would keep a business afloat when they didn't have any business.
Unfortunately, was abused. Did you see most recently?
I saw
was over 100, or maybe it was 200
shitbags, dude.
Shitbags that
they didn't need it.
And
they
are
applied for it and
facing
they got it,
charges, which is hooray.
Yeah,
hooray.
Absolutely.
Fraud. You abused it. You should get punished.
Absolutely. But what I was saying is, so what I'm getting at is, with all this overspending and all it's done is create a bigger financial burden on the taxpayers of the country. And that's why I say I will vow to, if they ever do that again, which they probably won't now that the pandemic's over, right? But if they ever do, I don't really need it. And I will, you said I can't rip it up because you're like, I don't think you can just do that. And that wouldn't make sense anyway, because the money's already spent. Yeah. Like they cut the check. If you don't rip it up, it's just going to get somewhere. Yeah. So it's already tax dollars that have been spent. So I'll cash it and give it to someone that needs it more than I do.
Solid.
You know, go buy groceries for somebody or something like that. You know, be more generous. I mean, like I said, I don't need it. I'm still employed. Yeah. I still make my own money. I don't need a government handout. We were essential
workers all the way through. We never stopped.
Yeah. Yep. So that'll be my vow, because like I said, I don't want to sit here and say all that stuff and how I disagree with it and then spend it because they sent it to me. Fuck it, I'll spend it.
Well,
it's tempting.
That's kind of how I felt with the first round of it, because once again in the first round it was, you don't really know what's going on. You don't really fully understand it unless you're, a somebody who's researching and understanding and doing everything that you possibly can. You don't know, and it's hard. So, I spent that first round, and I enjoyed spending that first round. It definitely helped in the time, really, because at that point, we weren't really selling cars. We weren't really working. There wasn't really a lot going on.
Right.
I spent it. I agree, though. Knowing what I know now, knowing how piss poor managed the entire pandemic was, regardless of your political leanings, this is a fact. It's not something that you can just kind of candy coat and gloss over like it has been. It is a fact, right? Yeah. And I vow to do the same thing. I won't spend it. I won't do that. I will give it away. And I'm stuck behind the mic here. There we go.
That's a pact.
That's a pact. That's a pact.
We'll hold it. We'll hold each other to it. Now there won't ever be any stimulus checks ever again, so we can't prove to everybody that we're telling the truth. But yeah, man. So I totally can see why people are switching to the GOP.
Yeah.
As far as like who
the good old party.
Yeah, man.
I think we should change that name up a little bit. Sounds a little racist.
Yeah.
That's probably why we get the name.
It doesn't sound racist. It's the grand old party.
The grand old party.
It does sound old, rich white man.
It does.
The grand old party.
And
I mean, that's who established it, right?
But, true. But
so,
it's the Republican Party.
Yeah. So, like I said, I totally understand why people are switching to vote that way. There is a lot of overspending. The policies are fucked up. The border. We talked about this last episode 5, and how immigration is so fucked up right now, and it has been.
It really has.
It has been for a while. It's nothing new, but it just seems like, again, it's being highlighted right now because we're coming up to a midterm. So of course it's going to get brought up more than ever. But that also goes along with overspending, right? So who pays for all this? The taxpayers. Sanctuary cities. I don't believe in them. One, because all that does, in my opinion, is it extremely it's enabling, right?
Yeah.
So people hear about sanctuary cities. Oh, I can just go. That's where I'll be sent. So it's enabling that illegal immigration.
It's incentivizing. It's encouraging them to be like, oh, do you see in New York that we could just go there? Yeah. Look, they're welcoming us. So huge welcome arms. We could get sent to Martha's Vineyard. We can go see the
even though that was a bad thing, right? So what's funny about that too, pause a little where I was going because I had this thought too. But what's funny is that if you look, the Republican Party actually has quite a large Latino voting base.
Yeah, it's huge.
A lot of Latinos vote.
Oh my God! Did you see what that crazy cunt in The View said?
But DeSantis and Abbott are being criticized for sending them to sanctuary cities. Even and that's a lot of their voting base, right? So, but what were you going to say? Somebody on The View said what?
Yeah, so I do believe it was The View, and this lady was like, I can't believe that the Latino using an accent when she did that, and that really irritated me. By the way,
that's
because
fucking
doing it just to pander. Yeah. Now doing it for comedy, that's a different story, right?
She's trying to relate.
The Latinos, and I'm like, come on. Anyways, she was like, I can't believe, and she even said it. She's like, there's a large population of the Latino community that are voting Republican. And she goes, I can't understand why you would vote in that way. You're voting against your own self-interest. If
there are so many Latinos that vote Republican because they vote against their own self-interest. If you really are interested in these types of issues, then you're a Democrat.
See, Cubans and these people, Venezuelans and Mexicans that have come in, they've seen what this extreme El Mofo community is doing and blasting it, and that's why they're voting Republican. That's why they are, is because they understand what the facts are.
Yeah, and maybe it's because those certain Latinos actually want to live with the American values and the policies that make America great. That the left-leaning extremists are trying to dismantle, right? So they, Constitution, stuff like that we've talked about before. Yeah. So maybe it's because these Latinos that are fleeing their shithole countries want that better life. No, they're shithole countries. That's why they left them. If they're leaving places where they can either get killed or trafficked or, mules, whatever they're going to get used for, they're deplorable conditions, things like that. I'm not saying Mexico's a
lot of them
but
are
there
coming
are parts.
Over to traffic drugs.
I understand that, and that's those. But I'm saying the ones that actually vote, right? Yeah. So the documented, legal that can vote, Latino voters. Maybe that's why they're voting Republican because they see that the Republican policies are, as a majority, are better for America. So. But what I was going to say, before that, as far as again, with people switching to Republican, if you're using some of the reasons why, as far as Democratic, constant handout mentality. Rely on us.
Relying on the government.
We'll take care of you. Just don't worry about anything. Big government, overspending, just putting us into further debt.
Right.
Take for example, this past week we saw in the news that Brooklyn, they had these massive tents set up. What is it? Three massive tents that would hold 1,000.
I think it was
people
three tents holds 1,000 people, and it's in the Bronx.
And it's a sanctuary. New York City is a sanctuary city, funded by the government. Mm-hmm. Trump tried to cut back a lot of that funding, and as soon as Biden got in, it was reversed.
Ixnayed on everything.
Right. So, right now, looking it up, quick search, there's somewhere around 11.5 million undocumented immigrants. Meaning
migrants.
Meaning they did not come over here legally. They didn't come over the right way. 11.5 million.
And that's a lot. And think of the population of New York, and I think I said this last time, the population of New York or the population of some of these cities that are right there on the border. When you have that many people.
8,000 a day.
8,000 a day. And that's just at the Rio Grande? Isn't there an extra?
Rio de Janeiro. That's a country.
No?
State.
Is it? All right. The Rio Grande. Anyways,
like
I was
Brazil.
thinking Rio de Janeiro. Yeah.
It's in Brazil.
Yeah. I watched the movie with the birds.
You failed at geography.
I apologize. It happens sometimes,
Yeah, I know.
I'm just a stupid American. I can
stupid is as stupid does. I learned that on Forrest Gump. Tom Hanks taught me that.
I thought I was.
And life was like a box of chocolates.
You never know what you're gonna get.
That should be Joe Biden's slogan when he runs. If he runs again in 24, his slogan should be "Life is like a box of chocolates." You never know what you're gonna get.
What was his slogan? What was his slogan for
Joe Biden for president?
Yeah, it was Joe Biden for president.
Or Biden for president,
right? Yeah, which was, I mean, come on, you could have thought of something.
And I'm Joe Biden's wife.
What?
Didn't he say that?
Yeah. And vote for me. Vote for
he's
me.
Done talking on stage, he doesn't know. He's like, okay, what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah, vote for me and you ain't black.
Yeah, that's stupid shit. I was 30. She was 12. I was 30. That was the one that
that's
was
the one
recent
that I sent you.
You sent me. I was 12. So yeah, if we're talking
and it was in the
creepy
middle
Joe
of the
statements,
speech, man.
She was trying. You got to say hi. You got to say hi to me.
You got to say hi to me.
We go back a long way.
She
was 12. I was 30.
We get It's like, huh?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
And then they go back. I watched this clip. They had like a little montage of things like creepy shit he said, and like one of them was that.
How long was that montage?
It was just a quick.
3
hours,
could go on
4 hours
long?
Yeah. So, because then if you add in the visual, like holding the shoulders, whispering down your ear, sniffing, people looking really fucking creeped out. He's at this like I think he's at a community pool, and he's like, the kids. My hair turns real blonde in the sun, and they used to come down when I get out of the pool, and he's literally going, and they'd run their hand down my leg and lay the hair down and watch it go back up. I'm like, what the fuck? Who says that?
That's super weird.
He's like, I love kids, and they'd sit on my lap, and I love kids sitting on my lap or bouncing on my lap, whatever he said. And I'm like, what? Why would you say something like that?
I love kids sitting, bouncing, rubbing, smelling. I love children.
Tugging.
I'm
not a pedophile.
I love children.
I'm not.
I'm not.
Oh, God. He's so fucked up.
Yeah, he is, man. I literally don't understand how he got this far.
Yeah.
And
agenda.
Pushing it.
Narrative.
And a vote for me is a vote for not Trump. That's it. So vote for me.
So I know, like, I don't want to beat up, I guess, immigration too much because we talked about it last week, but it's still very relevant in the news right now.
It really is, man.
It's something that they're going back on. And again, it's every election cycle this comes up more as we get closer. It wasn't perfect during Trump's administration. It wasn't perfect during Obama's. It wasn't perfect during Bush. Like, they all have it's been an issue for a very long time. We didn't get to 11.5 million undocumented in just the last couple of years. So,
I mean, it definitely slowed down with,
Trump.
The last administration, Trump.
Right. So, well, like I said, so he had
And I
those.
don't
He had
think they
those.
would've pulled the shit that
He
they
had
were doing
those
now.
spending policies or
Yeah.
the cutbacks in there for funding these sanctuary cities. Again, that got repealed immediately. So, my issue too is that, and I said something a little bit about this before we recorded, was like, you got to think too, like as far as illegal immigration. So we talked about this last time, and how they always talk about like immigration reform, stuff like that. So making the process not as difficult. So I'm going to pull this up here. Okay. So I left this on left this tab open.
Good job.
Because I was like, okay, well, we do need reform. I'm not going to say we don't. But that doesn't mean that in the meantime, we just let them keep coming in.
Yeah, just let
you
them
know what I
keep
mean?
coming in, right.
Because that's just going to put us further and further in debt. Because, the Fed funds these sanctuary cities,
Yep.
and that comes out of all of our tax dollars,
Yep.
right? So, and
Well, that money could go to
not to
schools,
mention, so the
other welfare.
if you're
Mental
so
health.
say people when they talk about illegal immigration, right, the fight against illegal immigration, a lot of times it gets brought up, we're letting in rapists, drug dealers, murderers, whatever,
Yeah.
potentially, which
Potentially.
I'm not saying there wasn't, but I am sure that there's a large majority of them, right, that are decent people,
Yeah, of course.
but they are they're just so desperate, or sorry, but lazy. They don't care to go the proper way. Or they just don't have the patience to wait. They're just like,
Yeah.
fuck it, I'm going to go in and whatever. You're not doing yourself any favors,
Right.
because an undocumented one, like I said, right? What's fair is fair. I'm born in this goddamn country, and I'm documented as soon as I'm born.
Yeah.
The second I'm born, I'm documented. And then all throughout my life, I'm documented in other ways.
Right.
My taxes, so IRS, I'm documented that way.
Yep.
I have a number that's attached to me. My, that 10-digit number.
Yep.
I had to think about that. 9. Sorry.
There
That
you go.
9-digit number
I don't know
called
why
your
you-
social security
Yeah,
number
I was gonna
is
say, why did
attached
you
to
just
you.
say
That's your
social-
documentation. Like
Yeah.
that is tied to everything.
Everything you do.
And so like if I have to do that, then you have to do that. So when they come over illegally for whatever their reason may be, so like I said, even if they're not like a horrible person, but they just don't feel like going through it, so they're just like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go, then you're not making it any easier for yourself, because being undocumented, I can't imagine it's too, they say, Mexicans or Latinos or whoever comes over the border, they're great workers. They do the farming and stuff like that. What if,
That's racist.
are they, no, but I
No,
hear
I
that,
know what
they're
you're
some of the
saying.
best workers. So,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying they're not, but are they settling? If they were documented and went through the proper way, could they get a better education? Could they set up to be that and then get a better paying career?
Right.
I've had people come in that they can't buy a car because they're not documented, because
Right.
they don't have a social security number because
Right.
of that. And then you think,
They
look
come
at
over on work
the
visas and
the children. So when a mother and father or whatever, if you're single, whatever, and you come over with your kid, they're undocumented. You're setting them up for a very tough life.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
And so I just, so if you want to talk humanitarian aspect of it, all the more reason to reform, right? Immigration. So I'm going to bring this up. I'm sorry, I'm stealing the mic for quite a period of time here, but, steps to apply.
Yeah.
So this can take up to 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
Right. Up to. So, first step is file a petition with the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service.
Okay.
So you have to petition on behalf of a family member that wants to immigrate to the United States, must file Form I-130. So I can't imagine that's a short process.
Yeah.
And then case preparation by National Visa Center. And then that's step 2. Step 3 is visa interview scheduling by the National Visa Center. Step 4, medical exam, which I agree with that, because
I agree with
we
that,
want to
yeah.
keep certain diseases that aren't here and they're in other countries out.
Right. It's called when I went to the Philippines and vice versa. When my wife came back from the Philippines, she had to get shots and boosters and stuff like that. Like that makes sense.
Well, and when you go to like a checkup, they ask like, have you been out of the country?
Yeah,
recently?
exactly.
Like, for that reason. So,
cool.
And then step 5, day of the interview. Step 6, visa approval. Step 7, after you receive your visa. So like when you get your visa, you're not supposed to open it. You got to check it at the border, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So it's a very long process. I imagine that some of these things, and when you have 8,000 people coming over a day illegally, I can only imagine how many might be trying to do it the right way. Mm-hmm. But then also, like, so if you got 8,000 that are coming over illegally, how much focus is getting diverted to that issue versus, you know what I mean? Because I can't imagine there's enough staff to handle all that. Yeah. So,
that's a great point. And I don't think I've thought about it in that way. And I guess my brain goes to, you know, there's a lot of Chinese people. There's a lot of, you know, Japanese, Indian, you know, not too many Europeans that I necessarily know of, but there's a lot of people that come over to America to live, and everybody, and I guess it's because of the plane or whatever that makes it you know what I'm saying? You don't hear of 10,000 Chinese people or Indians or 8,000, I'm sorry, coming over a day. It's like, well, they're not flying over a plane. They can't get through the airports. You know what I'm saying? They can't get past border control on that front. But right there, they're just walking across. You know what I'm saying? It's like the people overseas are coming over to America legally. I mean, I understand that it's a lengthy process, but they're doing it. Why can't you do it?
Yeah.
Now, do I agree that it should take such a long time? No, I don't think so. I think it should be kind of like getting a driver's license. You ask some questions, you figure it out. What is the reason for your stay? Just like if you're flying on an airplane kind of way.
Because I don't think the vetting process to
I don't think that happens, really.
Well, so what I was going to say is that, the vetting process to make sure that we're not letting in hardened criminals, could be, I think, done a lot quicker. And then make it easier, or, I'm not, like you said, I'm not a politician. I'm not, well versed in the process, but
we're just two guys.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine exactly. I can't imagine that the vetting process to make sure they're not a hardened criminal needs to take so long.
Yeah.
And then once you find that, because you can find that out right away. Because if they're so let me say this, right? So if they come over here and it takes 3 to 4 years, or actually it takes 3 to 4 years before they come over here, really.
Yeah.
Because I think visas only last for 6 months. Unless
it's like a work visa and stuff like that. Because if I went to the Philippines, I can only stay there for like 6 months.
Right. So,
I think that's just for a passport.
They don't get to, during the process of coming here legally, they still have to stay over in their country. So it's the undocumented illegals that are here and not going through the process, whatever, feeding off the system, taxpayer dollars, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But like I said, so it's like once you have the people that are doing it legally, once you have determined that they're not any kind of threat, which shouldn't take that long, I can't imagine, because there's so many databases that are crazy good at finding that stuff out. Then speed it up. Like, why doesn't it just come on? Like, get through the process. And again,
do you think it'd be the Mexican or the Venezuelan government that is not getting that information over fast enough?
I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure that there's a fight, and there's, again, probably not enough staffing. Probably the insane influx of immigrants that are trying to come over is hard. It's like almost impossible. If you have 8,000, like I said, 8,000 illegals a day on average coming in, then it's probably damn near impossible to keep up in a rapid pace as far as legalized immigration. So yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, how do you do it? So wall, I'm totally for. I mean, there's already fences and walls that they can scale. So whatever you got to do to prevent the illegals from coming in. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just my thing is, again, it's the burden that, my bigger issue is the burden that gets placed on the American taxpayer.
Yeah.
Because of the shit policies that are in place, and especially the laxed policies of just letting them come over, and then not dealing with it appropriately. So once they cross over because they got through, again, 8,000 a day. First of all, that's an astonishing number when I heard that.
Legitimately.
8,000 a day on average. So,
I mean, think, and I'm using this in just an example, right? So you got 100 pennies in your hand, right? That's a shit ton of pennies. You lay them all out. That's a lot. Now, 8,000 of them. That's people. That's humans' lives. That's people, families, children that are coming over, and you're, let's say, 1,000 border agents, 1,000 officers, 1,000 people, whatever, right? A day.
Yeah.
You can't process. You can't see those people. I mean, each interaction could only last seconds. Yeah. Who are you? Okay. Stamp, right? If you were trying to process them. And I agree, man. It should be simplified. It should go through. I agree with the background check. I agree with, a physical exam, or shots or whatever is needed. I agree. It should be expedited. It should be a lot easier, especially for neighboring countries. Maybe the same process in place for foreign countries, more foreign. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that should take a few months. You know what I'm saying? And for your next door, so like Canadian coming over, just come over.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like it should be a lot easier. That's just my 2 cents.
And then there's always the emphasis of, obviously, like I said, trying to weed out the bad guys. First of all, I don't think you ever really could weed 100% of them out.
I mean, we can't weed our own bad guys out.
And that's exactly what I was going to say, is that there are so many homegrown pieces of shit out there.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say like what's the difference, but I guess it wouldn't be so much of a focus. Obviously, you want to keep the drug. A large majority of our drugs come from the southern border. Mm-hmm. So obviously, we want to keep that out and do a really good job vetting that. But I don't think you need to take 3 years to legalize someone to come in, and that would obviously greatly reduce the illegal immigration aspect of it. Now, this might sound really harsh, but as far as like people that want to come over here illegally because they're or they say, we're just going to take care of the illegals even when they come over instead of sending them back because they were in such bad conditions. That's why they came here. Mm-hmm. I mean, do we know at that point? Well, no, we don't know if that person came from a bad place or not. We don't because they're undocumented. We don't know these people. Yeah. So could they have? Yes.
That's a good point too. Yeah.
Could they have? Maybe not. They're not famished. You see all these people. They're not skin and bones. I mean, and then the other thing would be, it's not our fault. Like, that's what I was saying. Like, this is going to sound really bad, but it's not my fault that their country is trash and treating them badly. So now we have to take on that burden as taxpayers. Yeah. Like, that doesn't seem very right to me. Sense.
I was just thinking.
We can't even take care of our own people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how many homeless people do we have?
Homeless vets, homeless anybody. Like, homeless we can't even take care of our
people in foster care.
Exactly.
People living off food stamps. People relying on the government as it is.
And that's always been a huge gripe of mine. Is like, we can't even appropriate the right funding to help our own.
Yeah, that's a great point.
We put 3 tents up in Brooklyn to house 3,000 illegal immigrants rather than diverting that money to Americans that have been here their whole lives are in a bad spot.
All the kids up for adoption and foster care and all that are right there in New York. Man. Oh, that actually really pisses me off that you said that.
So
I didn't think of it that way.
A small example. So back in Maine, Portland is the biggest city on the coast.
Yeah.
And there's homeless shelters throughout the city. And multiple times I remember hearing about how on the news, like the homeless shelters are overflowing, they're at capacity. So people there was a park in downtown
like
Portland.
Winter time, right?
Yeah, exactly. People dying. And then, there was a park in Portland called Deering Oaks Park. Mm-hmm. And I remember, right before I moved here, driving home through there every day, there was a couple months where that place was flooded. It was like tent city almost in this park that wasn't normally like that because the shelters were overflowing.
Jesus.
And that was at like the start of the pandemic. And so whether it be people losing their jobs, going homeless, whatever, you know, if they were on the brink of homelessness, now they're getting that violent shove into it.
Right.
So,
Jeez.
so we can do it for illegals, but we can't do it for our own people.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I see your point all the way through. And like I said, I didn't even think of it like that. And that legitimately irritates me. Like, that really makes me mad. And I feel like everybody should be mad about that.
And it's no different, in my opinion, that, you know, there are plenty of homeless that are just lazy assholes that don't want to work.
Addicted to drugs.
They could, like, you see, I remember driving down the road one day and I saw this guy panhandling in the median, and he was dressed nicer than some people I know, and had a smartphone out and everything else, and homeless need money. And I'm sorry, you looked perfectly capable of working at McDonald's.
Exactly.
And even if you're not, you know, you don't have the education to get like a high paying job, you could work somewhere. Go be a landscaper.
Yeah, no doubt,
you know, man. A monkey can do that job. So, but at the same time, just like there are illegals that want to come here and just get a free ride, right? There are Americans that just want to be homeless and get a free ride, but there are also illegals or immigrants, whatever you want, you know, or legal, that really truly want to come here, that want a better life, want to live the American way, want to be contributing member of society.
Yeah.
They're just like that. There are plenty of homeless Americans that are just, they got in a bad situation, they got in a bad spot, and now they can't get out of it.
Yeah.
So we need to help them. And so I'm like, until we get our own people.
Once we get our own shit together and we are a thriving, absolute superpower, literally the number one country
like
in the
we
world,
used to be,
then that's cool. Then we can help people. Once again, it should be through a set legal process.
Right.
This is our country. We set the rules. If you want to come to our country, you have to.
Right. And now I'm not saying that help our own before we help any immigrant.
Right.
Help our own before
we
help
should
illegal.
be funding a war in Ukraine just to topple Putin.
Help our own people before we help illegal immigration.
Yeah.
Help the legal immigration because we are a country founded on immigrants.
Absolutely.
Right. But help our own before we help illegal immigrants.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Bottom line.
So, did you see most recently that a report came out, and I forget who it was, that there were talks for Russia and Ukraine all the way back in February for them to,
and that they knew about it.
Yeah, they were going to settle. Like, hey, we won't invade you, or we're going to leave the invasion, whatever, as long as you do not join NATO.
Right.
And the president of Ukraine and Putin, I forget the president of Ukraine's name. He's a fucking idiot anyways, but whatever. Have you seen some of his ads? He's wearing like just a t-shirt and anyway.
Well, I do like that he fights with his people though.
I mean, yeah, anyways, there shouldn't really be a fight anyways, but they were in talks, and the US or another foreign government, whatever, were like, no. We want a regime change in Russia. No.
So we're going to use the Ukraine as leverage.
Bingo. And that's why we sent hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in funding this war.
More taxpayer dollars being used wisely.
Exactly. So we can afford, with the money that we spend, we can afford millions of dollars to just send off to another country to help them out. But we aren't sitting here addressing real issues.
It's like when Obama sent the millions and millions of dollars to Iran.
Yeah.
In cash.
Jesus.
And at the same time, they were
buying a $4 million house on Martha's Vineyard.
No, at the same time, Iran was chasing death to America. So, like, that's just that's what we do, man. We butt our nose in places that we shouldn't be.
It's fucking nuts, dude.
So I don't know, man. Trump, no new wars.
Yeah.
And now Biden, we're all fucking intertwined with Ukraine because he has ties with Ukraine.
Yeah, that's where a lot of his son's money came from, was Ukraine. Isn't that kind of funny how that works? His son makes a whole bunch of money, and now we're invested in a war?
Kind of obvious. Got to keep funding it.
Yeah. Interesting. You know what we should do? We should just move our border into Mexico.
You said that last time too.
No. I said last time we should just buy Mexico and be like, all right, you got to pass through all of this before you can get to the good U.S. This is, the one big state called Mexico. I don't know. But we should move the border like another 50 or so miles, like right up to a town. And just make it like, okay, here, you want to set up tents and stuff like that. Here's Sanctuary City, and then Texas.
You know what they should do?
Its own little part.
They should make little flyers and send them down to all those countries, and it's just a picture of Biden's face, and then on the bottom it says, "Do you really want to move here?" Or just, "Do you really want to?"
Really? It's like, I know we're going to give you food stamps, and you don't have to really do anything, and you can rely completely on us. All for that vote, babies, to keep us in power, and we'll keep giving you free shit.
Yeah.
But do you really?
Yeah. Well, immigration used to be all about, you come here because we're the home of the free, but
yeah, home of the free, as long as you rely on the government.
Home of the suckers.
Yeah.
But I still love this country, man.
I absolutely love this country, man. But yeah, like I said, audio listeners, we greatly appreciate you. Share this around. I'm telling you.
If I was in North Korea saying half the shit I say on this podcast, I'd be dead by now.
Death. Yeah, you would be dead. Absolutely.
This has been
Chris.
This is Eric.
This is the Proof is in the Whiskey podcast. If you agree with I'm just kidding. All right. So once again, guys, we greatly appreciate you tuning in. I know that there is a good number of you guys returning, which I really, really like, because that's what we're doing. We're building a community of people that are listening, eventually watching us, and growing and continuing a conversation in some fashion. So if you agree with Eric, or you agree Eric is a giant piece of shit, hit that like
Either way.
button. Once again, so that is if you agree or disagree,
You can kiss my ass.
or just in general think he's a piece of shit, hit that like button. Okay? Download it, share it. Like I said, we are one brand spanking new audio listener from jumping into it. I think I'm going to do Rumble. This is going to be available on Rumble and YouTube, and audio is going to be on Spotify and Apple Podcast. So if you tune in week on week and you love what we're saying, come on back next week. Wednesday, new audios are coming up. Wednesday, 12:01.
Every Wednesday.
This is the Proof is in the Whiskey podcast, brought to you by good old American values. I don't know.
Hairy American men.
It's brought to you by a bunch of hairy American men.
I wake up in the morning and I piss excellence.
I piss excellence. That's absolutely great.
If you don't like what I said,
If you don't like what we said, go fuck yourself.
But
you can come back next week, listen to it, disagree even more, and then go fuck yourself again.
Go fuck yourself real good.
Go
boy.
fuck a sheep, you fucking
You can kiss
sissy.
my white, hairy Irish ass. And I say Irish, and that's why, because, I come from Irish immigrants.
Yeah, mine's a little bit deeper, Scottish.
You are Scottish.
No. This is my Scottish. It's more.
You
of
sound like Sean Connery.
it's more of a Sean Connery impression than anything else.
Oh, if you don't like what I said, you
If
can
you
kiss
don't
my
like
ass.
what I said-
You can kiss my arse.
You can kiss my arse.
Yeah.
This is Chris.
This is Eric.
This has been the Proof is in the Whiskey podcast. Tune in every Wednesday, audio listeners, and anytime, as of right now, on YouTube. Just keep going to YouTube. We'll pop up. Bingo.